Let's now watch a teacher who introduces the language function of expressing preferences using infinitives and gerunds.
Class, let's discuss your plans after graduation. Do you all plan to go to college?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes, RJ?
Well, I have just finished applying for the UP admission test, or UPCAT. I'm not sure though if I'm going to pass it, but if I do, I plan to take up computer engineering. Tinkering with computers is my hobby.
Okay, what about you, Jat?
I hope to pass UPCA too. I prefer to study in UP because, our status in life is not that good. Other universities might be too expensive for me.
All right, let us hear from Jessie.
Ma'am, I prefer to study in a computer school. I can get a more specialized education there. Besides, my grades aren't that high and I might not make it at UP. Now, I think I regret taking my studies for granted.
I remember telling you that before. I'm sorry to say I told you so.
If I make it, I promise to study harder. But right now, graduating is my immediate concern.
Yes, but remember to keep your promise. What about you, Ruben?
I'd like to take up mass comm.
Why mass comm?
I like writing about things going on around me. I always wanted to be a news reporter.
Okay, you have all good plans. I hope you will all succeed.
In the activity you have just seen, the teacher elicited from the students the structures to be learned without calling attention to those structures. The students were not even aware that they had been using the structures to be learned. When you introduce the language structure to your students, you want to show them what it means, what its form is, and how it is used. You can do this in several ways, but the best way is to present it in context. This means you create a situation where the language is to be used. The context can be the student's world, their physical surroundings, or their personal experiences. It can also be the outside world, as presented in stories, situations, or examples. You can also make use of formulated information in the form of charts, timetables, diagrams, or the like. In the lesson you saw earlier, the teacher introduced the new structure in the context of a dialogue about her students' plans for the future. She knew that in the making of plans and stating preferences, the language structures she intended to teach would be used. In this case, it was infinitives and gerunds. In your own classrooms, the discussion may not be as straightforward and flowing as in the scene you just saw. The thing to do is to be alert to the answers your students are giving and see if they are using the structures you want them to use. To lead them to the structures, you can ask questions that would oblige them to use the structures. Questions like, what do you plan to do? That would oblige them to use an infinitive. They would say, I plan to, or asking the question, what do you like doing, will require the use of a gerund. For example, they will say, I like writing. Now, let's take a look at the elicitation stage where the teacher shows how the new structures are formed and used. To elicit and isolate the forms, the teacher asks questions. The students answer, and as they do, she may or may not post their answers on the board. For the purpose of eliciting the grammar structures to be taught, she may or may not ask them to answer in complete sentences. Usually, in more informal situations, short answers will be more appropriate. Let's see how this is done in the classroom.
Okay, class, let's try to look at the answers you've given. As you notice, I have grouped them into 3 sets. Set A, Set B, and Set C. What do you think is the basis of my grouping? I want you to think about it. Try to go over the sentences. Okay, anyone? Yes, Michael?
The basis for the groupings in set A is that the words ending in ing are grouped together.
All right, very good. What about in set B? Yes, Christian?
Well, ma'am, in set B, there are words using to followed by a verb.
All right, so you have here to followed by the verb. What about in set C? Yes, Benson.
Ma'am, the basis for grouping of set C is that the VING words and the to plus verb forms are used.
Okay, very good. So you have here tinkering and then to graduate. All right. So if you notice, they are grouped according to forms.
What do the sentences have in common? I'll give you the answer to this when we return. Stay tuned.